let's just, before we start, let's just take a quick walk down memory lane and see what we did last time. So last time we spoke about data, and we spoke about the fact that data comes as in numbers, or it comes in characters, or words, sometimes we can say. And then the main data types for numbers that we talk about are discrete data and continuous data. And so we spoke a little bit about different types of data. They come in numbers and words, and then the numbers break up into these categories where we tend to count something, then it's discrete data, or if we measure it, it is continuous. Then we spoke about, in a data set, where is the middle of a data set? And there's three different ways that you can use to find where the middle is. You can use the mean, which is the average, the simple average, add up all the items, divide by the number of items. You can use the mean, which is rank the items from smallest to biggest, and then find the item in the middle. So with this one, you really do have to go from smallest to biggest. Your data must be ranked. And then the other way of finding where the middle is what's called a mode, the one that occurs the most often. And the fancy word for all of this is central tendency. So where is the middle or central tendency? Now tonight, we are going to focus not on central tendency, but rather on measures of dispersion or measures of spread. So these mean the same thing. They essentially mean how spread out is the data and what statistics can we use to help us measure how spread out the data is. Okay. Ooh, let's have a quick look here. Sorry. Somebody is, hopefully I can allow them in. There we go. So the first and easiest way to measure how spread out data is to find the range. And the range is just the biggest minus the smallest. Now, there are other ways. The other way is, or another way is something called the interquartile range. And the interquartile range really measures what is the range of the middle 50% of the data. So where does the middle 50% sit? But in order to work out the interquartile range, we have to work out something called Q1, Q2, and Q3. And those are called quartiles. And Q1, let me do this. Q1 is just a quarter of the way through the data, okay, or 25% of the way through the data. Q2 is halfway through the data. That's why we also call it the median, because the median is halfway through the data. And then Q3 would be 75% of the way through the data. So if I was visualizing a data set, maybe like Q1, 25 would be over here, 25% of the data sits here, and then 75% sits on the other side. Whereas for Q3, 75% of the data will happen until I get to Q3, and then there would be 25% more after that. Okay, then percentiles. Percentiles are very similar to quartiles. In fact, the first quartile is the same as the 25th percentile, because a quarter is the same as 25%. The Q2 or the median is the 50th percentile, and Q3 is the 75th percentile. So this language, sometimes we have two ways of saying the same thing. Oh, can't you hear anything? Apologies. Everyone, can I just get a thumbs up that you can hear me now, in case something bad has happened? Okay. And let's have a look. Amelia, can you hear me okay? Okay, maybe not. Maybe leave and come back, Amelia. It might help. Maybe leave and come back if you can't hear. If you can't hear me. All right, and then the other one that we will talk about a bit tonight is something called the standard deviation. That's another measure of spread or how spread out data is. The standard deviation is something we will use our calculators to help us with. All right, let's get going. So here is my very first example. I'm going to show you how to do this, and then you can use the example to do the second part. So if I want the range is the biggest minus the smallest. So 25 minus 4 is 21. So the data set, 100% of the data sits in a range of 21, okay, from between 25 and 4. In order to find the interquartile range, I first have to find Q1 and Q3. I could also find Q2, but it's not that helpful right now. Now, the quickest and easiest way to find Q1 and Q3 is to use a position formula. So what I do is I say first calculate the position of these things and then find their values. So what is the position formula? Well, it's a quarter times n plus 1 for Q1, and it is 3/4 times n plus 1 for this. As you look at this data set, I want to know what is the value of n for this data set. I would love someone to help me out and let me know what n is. So a big welcome to Amelia, Atlechang, Ntakeni, Onalena, Selekane, and Siem. How many values are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 values. And so in my formula, I am going to use this 10 to help me. Now, what happens is that a quarter times 11 is going to be 2.25. And what I do is I put a TH to remind me this is a position, not a value. Position of Q3, 11 times, oh, this should be 3/4. Sorry, I made a mistake there. So this should be, what would 3/4 be? It would be 7.5 plus, that would be 8. Oh, actually, I lie. What is the value of this going to be? A quarter times 2.5 plus, this is going to be 2.75. And then what is the value of this going to be? What's going to be in the big green box? Exactly, Annalena. This is going to be 8.25. But now this is not the value of Q1 or Q3. This is the position. So that's why I put a TH there just to remind me this is a position. How do I get the actual value of Q1 and Q3? All right, well, what we do is we go, it's clearly not the second position. It's clearly not the third. It must be between the second and third position. So Q1 will sit here. Where is Q3? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Q3 is sitting over here. And because it's falling between two values, with quartiles, we don't go to the nearest one. We actually average them out with quartiles. And so what is the value of Q1 going to be? Well, what's 12 plus 13 divided by 2? It's 12.5. What is the value of Q3? Well, 22 plus 22 divided by 2 is still 22. And so the middle 50% of the data, so this is the middle 50, is sitting between these two values. Therefore, the interquartile range is going to be 22 minus 12.5, which is going to give us 9.5. So the middle 50% of the data is sitting in a range of, well, 9.5 units. Now, there is something called the semi-interquartile range. And if they ask you for the semi-interquartile range, it is the easiest question in the world, because you take what the interquartile range is, 9.5, and you divide it by 2, in which case you are going to get 4.75. So I'm going to ask you to do something like this by yourself now. But before I do that, I want to see thumbs up if you followed that, thumbs down if you didn't. And are there any questions? Are there any questions from students in the room? Is there anything that you want to know about? Okay. Well then, I hand over to you. Here is my example. I want you to find me, in fact, I'll say, I want you to find me Q1, Q2, Q3. I also want you to find me the range and the interquartile range. And I will give you a bit of help. I will say that the position of Q1, the position of Q2, I will give you those formulas. But everything else, you have to work out by yourself. So that is going to be like that. And that is going to be like that. I will call this the answer A, the answer B, C, D, and E. If you feel like you have one of the answers, you can put it in the chat. Otherwise, over to everyone. See if you can tell me how to do that, and I will watch for questions in the chat. Okay, I don't see any current questions, so I'm going to let you work peacefully and get some water. Any questions or comments? Welcome to Tsapang. And who have I not greeted yet? I think I've greeted everyone else. So I suppose the easiest one is the range. That will just be 21. What is n? 9, 10, 11. If that's halfway, n should be 22. So now we need to work out what the position is by going, well, if that's 22, this would be 23 in here. So we put that there. What is the position? This is going to be position 5.75. This is going to be position, what's that going to be? 11.5. And this is going to be position 5. So is this also going to be why is my brain? Does somebody give me a position on this? This will be position what? I think that will be divided by 4 times by 3. Can someone give me a position on Q3? I don't have my calculator here. My brain has just had a moment. There we go, 17.25. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think Q1 should be somewhere in that neighborhood. This is going to be where Q2 is, and Q3 is going to be 15, 16, 17. So it should be here. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So it's going to be here. Now that doesn't give us the value, it just gives us the position. Let's see in the chat if anybody has answers yet. Well, halfway between 12 and 15 would be 13 and a half. Q2, or the median, should be 22, and Q3 should be 26.5. What I want to know is what is the interquartile range? What is the interquartile range? Well, we can only say 26.5 minus 13.5, in which case we have 13. So my interquartile range is that. For bonus points, what is the semi-interquartile range going to be? What is the semi-interquartile? It's just going to be 13 divided by 2, which is 6.5. Now, if you want to visualize the interquartile range is just this thing here. It's Q3 minus Q1, which you worked out was 13 units. Just to show you about some other words we're going to use later on in this section, okay? We know that Q1 is the same as P25, that's the same as P50, and that's the same as P75. So if you're thinking about what these values mean, you can see that if I go from the beginning and the data is arranged from smallest to biggest, when I get to here, I've used up 75% of all the data. I only have 25% left to go. That's why it's the third quartile, or 3/4 of the way through, or the 75th percentile. Now, if I was going to work out what the 80th percentile was, it would probably be in this region of town, because I would still need to leave 20% over here. We may not get time for that tonight, but just to sort of give you a sense of the 80th percentile would be somewhere around here, and the 10th percentile, P10, would probably be somewhere down this part of town. Give me a thumbs up or give me a score out of 10. How did you score yourself out of 10 for understanding on this question? Where 0 is no understanding, 10 is perfect, 5 is okay, but needs to improve. What would you score yourself on this one? Let me see, because the numbers are helpful for me to understand where you're at. Okay. So generally, it seems like we're reasonably okay. All right, let's do this data set. I want you to find me the interquartile range for this data set. And I'm not going to give you any help. You're just going to go for it yourself. I want you to fly solo on this one. So I know I need Q3 and Q1, and therefore I need the position of Q3 and the position of Q1. I also need to know what N is. So N is 7. And to find the position of this, I need to use this formula. But isn't it rather nice that N plus 1 is 8? So that must be 8. That whole bracket must be 8, which means this is the 6th, and this is the 2nd position. So what is it going to be? Well, let's go to the 2nd position. That is going to be the value of Q1. And Q3 is going to be the 6th position, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's Q3. So you can see that's the middle 50% of the data, but it doesn't fall like in the past. The positions have always been like fractions, but it turns out it can also land on whole numbers. And so then the IQR will be 27 minus 13, which is going to be 14. So the interquartile range is 14. So that's a measure of spread. Okay, I think we're doing quite well at this. So I'm going to move on to some harder questions if I can find some. Well, let's do this one. What is the interquartile range of the following set of numbers? See if you can find that for me. And then choose the option that you think it is. Okay, let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I get an N of 20. There's 20 items in this data set. I first need to find the position of the quartiles, and then I can work out what they actually are. And since I'm getting more comfortable with this, I'm going to skip a step and say that. So where is 5.25's position? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks to me like Q1 is sitting there, which seems like it would be a value of 10. And then Q3 is the 15.75. Okay, so 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So Q3 is sitting here, and that should be a value of 32. So my IQR is 32 minus 10, which is 22, which is going to be B. And I see that Lechang, Onelena, Simtanda all agree. Okay, well done, everyone. Very nice. I think you guys have got this. So let's just do 2 multiple choice ones around the quartiles, and then I think we're ready to move on to standard deviation and percentiles. So find the lower quartile. I'll call this A, B, C, and D. Find me the lower quartile. See if you can do that. So what is my N value? N is 7, which means position of Q1 is a quarter times N plus 1, which is 8, which is the second position. And the position of Q3 is 3 quarters times N plus 1. So it's that. So that's the 6th. Oh, but I don't need that. I just need the lower quartile. So all I need is the second position, which is there, which means the answer should be C. Fantastic. Okay. And I see everyone got C, so that's good. Let me see. Okay, let's go for this one before we have a break, and let's have a break. Find the upper quartile for that data set. Find the upper quartile for that data set. I will call this A, B, C, D. What is the correct answer for this going to be? It's going to be the 6th position. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa. Did I make that? N is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I see, oh, look at what I did wrong, everyone. Oh, no, was that one? Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay. Did everybody pick that up? I see that Lechang has. So this data is not ordered. And in order to find the quartiles, we have to order. Now, it may not, well, let's see. 119 is the smallest. Then it's 125. Then it's 136. Then it's 140. Then it's 150. Then it's 150. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I've calculated this wrong. N is not 7, N is 6. In which case, this is going to be a fraction. So I made a bit of a boo-boo there. Let's try that again. So 3 quarters times N plus 1. What is my position going to be for this? Pop what you think is the position in the chat. What's 3 quarters times 7 going to be? Okay, it's going to be 5.75. Okay, this is a funny one. The correct answer here, and it's a weird one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I fall between these two, because these values are the same, it's going to be weird, but Q3 is going to be an answer of 150, and the answer is C. So the main reason that happened was because these two values were the same, and it's such a small data set. Okay, a bit weird, but doable. Thank you to everyone who spotted the little tricky bit about resetting. Give me a thumbs up if you are feeling okay, give me a thumbs down. If you're not feeling so good. I see one thumb. Anybody else's thumb? How are we all feeling? Okay, awesome. Then it's time for a break. I think that we need to just take 3 deep breaths and jump around a bit, and then we'll be good to go. So breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Okay. Then let us do 15 jumping jacks. And what the jumping jacks are going to allow us to do is just to get some blood pumping in our bodies. We know it's been a long day and our bodies need a bit of, just waking up. So we're going to do 15 jumping jacks in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and that is that. Then I would also like us to try and solve this puzzle. So people from this many countries have visited the space station. If you can unlock this puzzle, the number of countries that have been to the space station is there. And so I will let you figure that out and amaze me with your brilliance in figuring out the number of countries. Yeah, USA being 3. Silicani, I think you have got us off to a very nice start. Okay, now we still need to do a bit more though. So the other flag is 2. I would agree because this has to be 4. I think this is the Russian flag, if my memory serves me correctly, because 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 times 3 is 12. So we're doing well. Now, then Japan must be, well, if Japan was 6 times 2, we get 12. So I don't think this is 6. I think it is going to be something a bit different, but close to that. Something times 2 is 24. I think this has to be 12. Yeah, 12 times 2 is 24. So what is the final answer going to be? How many countries, or people from how many countries have visited the space station? Well, we have 12 plus 3 plus 3, which would be what? Because there's a 3 and a 3. There's 2 flags there. So I think there must be 18 countries. Yeah. And Silicani agrees with me. So 8 people from 18 countries have visited the space station. Okay. So to finish off tonight, we are just going to look at standard deviation and percentiles. And all I want us to do is take out our calculators. Now, I put a video on the Google Classroom for Casio and Sharp, but in reality, it's actually very simple to do this in your calculator. So I just want to see that you can do it. So I have a data set over here. Actually, no, let me explain standard deviation a bit first before I jump to that. Maybe I'm jumping a little bit too quickly. So let me take my videos and put them over here. And let me get rid of this. Now, the standard deviation, it does look a little bit scary, but it's not that scary. So the standard deviation is a measure of how spread out the numbers are. And the letter that we use for the standard deviation is sigma. So that's sigma. So you'll notice that's what we're looking for in our calculator. Now, we don't have to do this manually. We can use our calculator, but just so you know what's in the formula, the N is the number of people in the data set, or the population size, essentially. The U over here, or mu, is the mean. So in a data set, what is the mean? You add up all the items, you divide by the number of items. This over here is an individual data item itself. That's the difference between the mean and the data item. And you square that, and then you sum up all those squares and you divide by the number of items and you square root it. Now, it does seem like a mouthful, but the good news is our calculator will help us. Give me if you've heard of the standard deviation before, if you've ever heard of it before, say yes in the chat. If you've never heard of it, just say no in the chat. Okay, so for most of you, this is the first time you've heard about what this thing is. So all it is a way of saying how far on average is the number from the mean or the middle of the data. So if we have a data set and the mean, let's say, is here, if all of the items, all of the other data set items are close by, we will have a low standard deviation because the distance between the mean and the data items is small. But if I have a data set where the blue dot is the mean, but there's some here, and there's some over there, and there's some down here, then we would say that the standard deviation is going to be higher because the distance to the mean, if you look at how far away these things are from the mean, is quite a bit bigger than the previous data set. Now, I don't think I need to go into that level of detail in grade 11. It's just not necessary. So let's just check if we can use our calculators to do this. So take out your calculator, and assuming you have a Casio, tell me in the chat if you have a Casio or a Sharp with you, because those are the two brands. There used to be a brand called Truly that was also quite popular, but I think most of you would probably be Casios. Let me know in the chat. All right. So what you do is you go to mode, and then you click stat. All right. Now, some of you would have 4 on the variance. Some of you would have 1. It depends, but you should get a table that pops up after doing those 3 steps. Give me a happy face if after going mode, stat, and then choosing the variance, it might be a 1 or a 4, depending on what model you're on. I can show you actually a picture of what it will look like, actually, if I go for a moment. Okay, let's have a look. Maybe I need to just quickly take a picture from the video. So let me do that. I'll show you what you need to do, what it looks like. I'll turn this on. Wait. So what do we want to do? Sorry, guys, let me just make this go away for a second. So mode, then 2 for stat, and then 1 for var. Yeah, but you don't need the frequency column. He's got a frequency column. So 1 is actually 1 would be fine. So that works perfectly fine. So now what you need to do is after you have put mode, stat, variance, you need to type the numbers in. So you go 356 equals 256 equals, 721 equals, 485 equals. And what you'll notice is in your calculator, you will see these numbers kind of going in. And I want you to type the whole data set in. And then I want you to tell me done when you have typed all those things in. Or if you're stuck, I want you to say stuck in the chat. So either done because you've typed in the numbers, 356, 256, all 12 numbers, or stuck. And I'm watching the chat to see. Siamtanda, does it not? Are you in stat mode? Is there a little stat at the top? So what I'll do is, okay. And do you have a Casio? Okay, what I'm going to recommend in Siamtanda is if you have a look at the video that I put on Classroom afterwards, that will be helpful. And I'll try and do a little demo for you during the lesson. Okay, but don't worry, that's part of why you're here. Okay, now for those who are done, I want you to press the AC button. Then I want you to press Shift and 1. So Shift and then 1. And then I want you to hit 4, actually maybe not for the variance. Let me show you what this looks like again on my video. So let's actually open up this video and show it to you, because I think it will be helpful for everyone to see what has to happen here. So at the very end, when you go Shift 1, and what you see there is you're going to have to hit 4 for variance. So you go Shift 1, then 4 for variance. Then after you hit 4, there's another bunch of choices. And one of them is the sigma symbol for the standard deviation. Which number do you think it is? What number do you think I should choose? So we went Shift 1, and then we chose 4 for the variance, and the 3 is the sigma symbol. So we're going to hit 3, and then he's got different values in, but 3, and then after you hit 3, what will happen is you need to hit equals, and you will get a value. Now, I want you to try on your calculator. So there should be variance, then a 3 for sigma, and then there should be an equals. I want to see what value you're getting for your standard deviation. What value are you getting for your standard deviation? Okay, Silikani has a value. Atlechang has a value. Who else has a value? So what you will see is that you should have got, you should have got 220.20. So that is the standard deviation. Now, if you go back, there is this other thing called X bar. Now, X bar is really just the mean. So just as a practice exercise, I want you to hit AC, then I want you to hit Shift 1, and then I want you to hit variance, so the 4 for variance, and see if you can see what number has the X bar symbol over it. What number has the X bar symbol over it? Okay, 2. Okay, so I want you to hit 2 and then hit equals, and what number do you get for the mean? Okay, so you should get, for the mean, you should get 501. And so what this is telling us is for this data set over here, the mean is 501, and the standard deviation is 220.20. And what that really means is, on a number line, if you imagine the value 501, on average, a data point will either be 220 above or 220 below. On average, that's how far away a data point is from the mean in this data set. Okay, but let's practice another one. So here is another data set, and I want you to go out of stat mode. So you're going to hit mode, and instead of hitting stat, you're going to choose computation. What number do I need to choose for computation on the calculator to go to computation mode? Okay, you hit 1. Then to go back to stat mode, you go mode and you go 2. And what that should do is it should clear the memory. By leaving stat mode, it clears the memory. Okay, now you're going to go back into the calculator and you're going to put your data in. So you're going to go mode 2, and then you're going to hit, let me bring those instructions from earlier on. But I want you to try and work out the standard deviation here for this number set. So for those going back in, you went mode 2, and then I think 4 is for, was it 1? It's 1 for variance here. Let's have a look. Oh, it's 1. It's not 4, it's 1. So you hit 1 for variance, and then you are going to put your data in. And then once you have put your data in, you have to go shift 1, and then you have to choose a 4 for variance, and then you have to choose a 3 for the standard deviation. Which of the 4 options do you think is the standard deviation? Which of the 4 is going to be? I want everyone to lock in their answers. Silakani and Sapang have entered their answer. Who else has an answer? Yeah, you guys are correct. It is 6.89 is the standard deviation for this data set. And it's important you don't choose the option where there's an S. You only choose this symbol, the sigma symbol, for standard deviation. Okay, let's do another one. So here you need to leave stat mode, go out of stat mode, and then come back in so that your memory is clear. I want you to type in these values. You don't need percentage. You can just put 23, 37, and so on. And then I want you to tell me what is the standard deviation of these end-of-year maths exam school marks. So these are the marks of 10 friends, what they got for their end-of-year maths exam. I want to know what is the standard deviation of their marks. Actually, for bonus points, I don't just want the standard deviation. I want that, and you're going to tell me which of these options. But I also want you to work out what the mean is of their marks. But that's bonus points. See if you can do that. Now, which of these four options? So we're going to go into our calculator. We go mode 2 for stat, and then it's going to be 1, and then it's going to be whatever data you have, and equals, then AC, then it's shift, and then 1, and then 3, and then equals. What do we think is the correct answer for this? What was the standard deviation of their marks? I'll give you a bit of time. Let's have a couple of students just so we can confirm. So what you should be seeing is that the answer of C, which is 16.9%, is going to be your standard deviation. So the answer would be C. Now, although this would be 16.9%. Now, what I would like to finish tonight is what is the mean? So to get the mean, you don't need to put the data in again. All you need to do is go AC, shift 1, and then I think the correct number is 2, which is the mean, and then go equals. So what would your mean be for this set of, what's the class average for this set of marks? What do you get? Hung has got an answer. Does anybody agree? Who else has got the mean? Let's just get one student to confirm. Can anybody second Tsapang's answer? Indeed. Okay. So what you will find is that the mean is 56%. So what that's saying is that the class average is 56%, and on average, people are within 16.9% on average of that result. All right, that is that for tonight. We will continue in the next lesson, and we'll be moving to grouped data. But this first week, we just basically did, how do we find where the middle of a data set is, and how do we find out how spread out a data set is? And tonight, we really just looked at how do we find the interquartile range using quartiles, and then how do we use our calculator to find the standard deviation, which is another measure of how spread out the data is. All I would